Hello and welcome aboard to this week's In Orbit, your weekly news station dedicated to all things space. Be sure to follow us to keep up to date with the latest news orbiting around the globe. Our first story for today: U.S. military space activities today are confined to Earth orbit. That could change in the coming years as NASA begins to establish a permanent presence at the moon and works with the private sector to develop a cislunar economy. The military foresees playing a role protecting those interests if they were challenged by a foreign power. The Space Force echoes that thinking in a doctrine document published in August, which says the service must prepare for a future when the moon and the volume of space around it could become the next military frontier. A key development last month was the announcement by the Air Force Research Laboratory's Space Vehicle Directorate that it will embark on an experiment to investigate technologies to monitor cislunar space. As the project moves forward, AFRL will seek advice from the Space Development Agency, the Space and Missile Systems Center, and NASA. We're looking to actively partner with NASA wherever we can, said Bueller. Obviously, they have the expertise operating far beyond GEO that DoD just does not have. Up next, former NASA astronaut Mark Kelly won his race for the U.S. Senate in Arizona on November 3rd, while two members of Congress involved in space issues lost their bid for re-election. Kelly, a Democrat, defeated incumbent Republican Senator Martha McSally by a margin of 52.6 to 47.4, according to results published by the Arizona Secretary of State. The totals include both votes cast on November 3rd as well as mail-in ballots. Kelly is a former NASA astronaut who flew on 4 shuttle missions between 2001 and 2011, including as commander of the penultimate shuttle mission STS-134 in May 2011. He retired from NASA after that final shuttle mission. He is married to Gabriella Giffords, a former congresswoman and chair of the House Space Subcommittee who survived an assassination attempt in 2011. Kelly joins an elite group of former astronauts who went on to serve in Congress. John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth, represented Ohio in the Senate for nearly a quarter century, capping his Senate career with another flight to space on the STS-95 shuttle mission in 1998. Harrison Schmitt, who walked on the moon on the Apollo 17 mission, was elected to the Senate from New Mexico in 1976, but lost his bid for re-election in 1982. Jack Swigert, who flew on the Apollo 13 mission, was elected to the House from Colorado in 1982, but died of cancer before taking office. Up next, the International Space Exploration Coordination Group, a group of 24 space agencies, released an updated version of its Global Exploration Roadmap report in August with little fanfare. The document offers what the group called a shared international interest for human and robotic space exploration, although one that is not binding on member agencies. The new report, an updated version published in 2018, reflects new national priorities and intensifies and accelerated lunar exploration plans by member nations announced since that earlier report. While not explicitly stated, that would include the United States, which in March 2019 moved up the date for a human return to the lunar surface by 4 years, from 2028 to 2024. This should be the worldwide common reference for future coordination with stakeholders, such as governments, academia, industries, and the public, said Naiko Sato of the Japanese space agency JAXA, who recently completed a term as chair of ISECG, during an October 28th webinar by the International Aeronautical Federation. The report outlines a scenario for lunar exploration similar to NASA's plans for the Artemis program with 3 phases. The first phase, dubbed Boots on the Moon, calls for a human return to the moon by 2024, just as NASA is planning. Phase 2 envisions establishing a more permanent, sustainable presence at the lunar South Pole, with excursions elsewhere on the moon. A final phase calls for a sustained and vibrant lunar presence in the coming decades, including commercial activities. We don't know when it will be, Sato said. We'd like to encourage industries in the world to achieve a fully developed lunar economy using technologies demonstrated in Phase 1 and 2. Our final story for today. China's main space contractor is developing launch vehicles capable of learning and adapting, as well as multiple technologies for recovering and reusing rockets. China will develop a first launch vehicle capable of vertical takeoff, vertical landing by 2025. Wu Yangsheng, a senior official with the China Aerospace Science and Technology Cooperation, said at a major conference in Chengdu, southwest China on November 3rd. Wu presented on the prospects of space transportation system development, also stated that CASC is working on rockets capable of learning and acting autonomously. The efforts involving the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology, one of the two major launch vehicle entities under CASC, would see existing launcher upgrade to be capable of making adjustments to change in, for example, thrust, and returning data to the ground for the benefit of future missions. Tests involving the Long Mark 2C are expected in the near future. According to media reports, the intelligent rocket would carry guidance, navigation, and control systems capable of reaching to multiple source information, including flight status, trajectory, and environmental conditions. Wu said 2035 would already be the era of smart launch vehicles. Wu underlined launch capacity, reliability and safety, launch cost, and development efficiency as 4 dimensions to evaluate China's capabilities with regards to access to space in the future. And that concludes all the latest earth-shattering news for this week. Follow us to keep up to date with more exciting stories. Also, follow us on our other social media to support the content we make. Stay safe and see you in orbit.